If you're not speaking, please put yourself in mute so that the audio will be clear. Perfect. Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody is...
Good evening, Rajesh.
Good evening, good evening. So hope everybody is staying warm and healthy. I heard that there is a lot of snow. It is going to be for the next couple of days. So please take care of yourself. That's very important. So we'll continue our discussion on chapter 3. Before we proceed, let's have Anu chant the first 5 verses of the 3rd chapter. So hope you have the verses in front of you. Anu, could you please chant the first 5 verses, and then we can... I'm sorry, like let's chant the first 6 verses so that we can cover 4, 5, and 6 today.
Okay, sure. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Tritiyothyayaha Karma Yogaha Arjuna Uvacha Jyayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava Pyamishrenev vakyena buddhim mohayasiva me tadekam vadanishchitya yena shreyo hamapnuyam. Shri Bhagavan uvacha lokesmin dvividha nishtha pura prokta maya nagha jnana yogena sankhyanam Karma yogena yoginam na karmana manarambhat naishkarmyam purushoshnute na cha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhigacchati na hi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krita karyate hyavashah karma sarvah prakriti jair gunaihi Karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyathan vimudhatma mithyacharasa uchyate.
Thank you, Anu. That was wonderful. So we heard the chanting of the first 6 verses. So the second session, let's understand what we covered on the first session and try to cover the next 3 verses. Every day, at least, we will cover the 3 verses. So this 3rd chapter, the predominant topic is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, loosely translated into yoga of action. So in 2nd chapter, we heard Krishna giving an end-to-end understanding of the entire spiritual path highlighted in the Bhagavad Gita. So what was that path? Krishna said, the fundamental human problem is you don't know your identity. You don't know who you are. And that's why all these sufferings comes to you. And the ultimate solution for this problem is knowing yourself properly. And what is the means for knowing myself? Knowledge, correct? If ignorance is the problem, what is the solution?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. There is no other meditation, yoga, pranayama, bhakti. Nothing can remove ignorance. The only thing that can remove ignorance is knowledge. So knowledge is the solution. And also he mentioned that in the 2nd chapter from verse 38 to 53, he highlighted something called yoga. And he gave, in fact, 3 important definitions of yoga. Anybody remembering? The first definition was in verse 48. What was that definition? Samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is keeping that equanimity of the mind. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Then on 50, he defined yoga as karma sukhaushalam, efficiency in action. Efficiency in action, we saw 2 parts. One is ability to choose the right action from a given set of possibilities. Right? right? Today, now I have a choice. I can sleep. It's a very good weather to sleep, right? Or I can go and watch a movie, or I can come to the Gita session. So in front of the different possibilities in front of me, how do I choose the right action? And after choosing the right action, how do we approach that action, right? What should be my mental state while acting? And what should be my mental state when I get the result? So this combined together is known as efficiency in action. So I should be able to pick up the right action, which is good for me. Second thing is what? How do I execute the action in the most efficient manner? And the third aspect is when I get the result, I need to gracefully accept the result. This is what is Karma Yoga. Not every hard working aspect is Karma Yoga. So that is the second definition of yoga, dexterity in action. Yoga karma sukaushalam. And the third definition is given on verse 53. What was that? Samadhi is yoga. Samadha vachala buddhi tada yogam avapsyasi. When your mind is placed in a stable state, samadhi means a stable state here, a stable controlled state. That means yoga. So then Arjuna had a terrible doubt. You are contradicting yourself. Because on one way you are saying that the ultimate solution for all my problem is knowledge. And then you're asking me what? Go and do the action. And for me, the duty is not an easy duty. It's a terrible duty. My duty or your duty is nothing compared to the duty of a soldier in the civil war. So this duty, which is not easy, and that duty is not going to take me to the highest, but you're asking me to do that. Isn't it a contradiction? I wanted to get rid of all these problems. So should I drop all the duties, go to Himalayas and pursue the knowledge? See, every one of us has a lot of duty, right? As a husband or as a wife or as a mother or as a professional, can I abandon all that duty and pursue the spiritual path if that is the ideal solution? So your words appear to be contradicting to me. Your words appear to be contradicting to me. Vyamishrenena vakyena buddhim mohayasi me tadekam vada nischitya hena shreyo hamapnuyam. So please tell me that path I need to proceed. So this is what Arjuna said. So Krishna understood the essence of the question. He said on the third verse, please, you understand that Karma Yoga and the Jnana Yoga are not one or the other, right? A few people do Karma Yoga, a few people do Jnana Yoga. Karma and Jnana, the yoga and the knowledge, they are not choices. Everybody has to go through these steps, because for anybody to pursue the knowledge, they have to have the stability and the purity of the mind. The yoga, in a broad sense, what it does, it gives you the purity of the mind and it gives you the stability of the mind. And without that purity and the stability, you cannot pursue the knowledge. Yes, you can pursue. Theoretically, you can understand, but that won't becomes a reality. Actually, even in Bible, the Lord Jesus tells, right? Blessed are the pure-hearted, because they see the God. Underline, who sees the God? Even per the Bible, pure-hearted. And how do you gain that pure-heartedness? Pure-heartedness means a purified mind. You need a path, which is known as Karma Yoga. And then, just to avoid Arjuna's confusion, Krishna just tried to clarify. You can approach this spiritual path in through two different paths, right? You can undertake this spiritual journey through two different options. One is you can exclusively dedicate yourself as a seeker of truth. That means you will be renouncing the worldly activity and you will be initiated into sannyasa. But the sannyasi also has to do Karma Yoga, because without doing the Karma Yoga, even that sannyasi will not get that eligibility to seek knowledge. So there is a choice in the lifestyle. You can approach your path as a dedicated spiritual seeker, or you can approach the path as a householder. Both will lead you to the end destination, but the steps, there is no choice. Is this clear? Because this is very important, and without understanding this, you will not understand Bhagavad Gita or Karma Yoga. Any questions?
We are good, Rajesh. Thank you.
Excellent, because a lot of books also confuse you. So this is very important. So let's go and try to see the next verse. So Anu, would you mind chanting this verse?
Fourth verse.
Verse 4. Yeah.
Okay. न कर्मणामनारम्भात् नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषोऽश्नुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति.
It's a beautiful verse. Again, Krishna tells. So let's see. The Sandhi Vicheda of this verse is Na karmanam anarambhat naishkarmyam purushaha ashnute nacha sanad eva siddhim samadhi gachati. This is the breaking of the words, because I'm just telling that if somebody wanted me to tell that. So there are two sentences in this verse. So let's try to understand the meaning of that, and then we'll try to understand holistically what this verse means. So the first sentence is Purushaha. So the first thing is a person. Purusha means he, whoever be who, right? Whether it is a man or the woman, or Hindu or Christian, it doesn't matter. A person, a human being, will not gain. Ashnute means gain. A person, na ashnute means will not gain. What? Naishkarmyam. It is a technical term. Naishkarmyam means perfection or moksha or the state of actionlessness. By the anarambhat karmanam. By not doing any action or by non-performance of any action. Suppose somebody stop doing any activities, he is not going to attain moksha. So that is sentence number 1. Sentence number 2 is he tells, nor does nacha sanyasanadeva siddhim samadhi gachati. Siddhim samadhi gachati means a person attain, means samadhi gachati. A person attain what? Siddhim. Siddhim means success or the outcome. How? By mere sanyasanat eva, by mere renunciation of actions. So by not starting any new initiative, and by stopping all the activities I have been pursuing, nobody is going to reach the higher state. So let's try to understand that verse a little bit more. So the first point he said is, he used the technical term. The technical term he used is Naishkarmyam. What is Naishkarmyam? Anybody, can you think about what is Naishkarmyam?
Actionlessness.
Yeah. So what is that actionlessness means? We need to spend some time on that. Is that somebody is not doing any activity, sitting idle? So the typical misconception at that point of time was, if you do not take any new activities and stop doing all activity, you will attain the state of Naishkarmyam. That is not the definition of Naishkarmyam. That would be at best what? It's a checklist for idleness.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
It's a checklist for idleness. That is at the best. So Naishkarmyam is something different. So since you are all studied Gita 2nd chapter, I just wanted to elaborate that on that point a little bit more. So the commentators like Shankara or Madhusudana Saraswati, they say that Naishkarmyam means the state of knowledge. State of knowledge means what? I know truly about myself. When I know my real nature, what exactly am I understanding? Okay, let me give you a simple example. That we all are working from home right now. For you to work from home, you use a laptop, right? Who gives you that laptop?
Either I can buy or my company.
The company gives you. Let's assume that it is your company's laptop.
Yeah.
So you are typing on that laptop, but what exactly is doing the work and where exactly doing that work is happening? It is on the company's asset, and whatever you do belongs to the company.
Yes.
So like that, for a person who has realized his true nature, what would be his understanding? He know that I am Atma. And what is the nature of that Atma? In the second chapter, we studied that. I am the one real Atma which pervades everywhere, and that is the truth of the universe. And my identity is not the body, my identity is not the mind, my identity is not the intellect, but I use them as a means for transacting with the world outside. So when I say somebody is acting, who is acting? Is my body acting? True. When I live in this body, my body need to act. My mind need to act. My intellect need to act. Think about any actions you do. It would be either performed by the body. If it is an emotion or a thought, it will be my mind, right? So all the action belongs to the body, mind, and the intellect. So I know that, yes, I'm using them for performing the action, but I am not the actor. I am only enlivening this body and the mind. So that state where I know that I am not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not this intellect, and the action belongs to the body, mind, intellect level. I am different from that. And that is the state that is known as Naishkarmyam. Naishkarmyam is a state which means, imagine that you are in a dream. In that dream, if that dream is a lucid dream, you know that I'm in say Himalayas, but I know that the real me is not the body. When there is a dream body, the mind that sees the enjoying the Himalaya is a dream mind which is separate from me. Can you identify yourself with that dream body? Yes, in that dream, but there is no existence for that body outside of that dream world. So like that, a person who has realized the truth, he know that I am not acting, right? I'm just engaging in the world. So he do not have that sense of doership. Of course, he will do what needs to be done because of his initiation, his mind and intellect will happen, but the action belongs to the body and the mind. The consciousness is something that just illumines the thoughts and action. So that is what the state of Naishkarmyam. That is the state of moksha. That is the state of liberation. I know that I am free from all these things. I am neither the body, nor the mind, nor the intellect. I am beyond all these things, and I am the pure Atma. And that state is what is known as Naishkarmyam. So by merely stop doing all the actions, do you shift your identity from your body, mind, intellect to Atma? Think about that. Absolutely not. So that's why by not means taking any new initiative, na karmanat anarambhat, by not taking any new actions, or by stopping all the action that is ongoing actions, nobody is going to become enlightened. The solution for enlightenment is knowledge, and for you to be eligible for the knowledge, you have to act. So by stopping the action, nobody is going to become perfect. As long as you are in the body, you're supposed to act. So now Krishna is going to teach us very slowly. If actions are unavoidable, then how should I act? That is the Karma Yoga. How can I act so efficiently so that I will be successful in the material world and I will be liberated at the eventually at the end? Because that is the life. Because if any master gives you a path to renounce the world and run away from the world, how much practical it is? Think about that. Right?
Rajaji, I had a question here.
Yeah, please.
Why is Bhagwan, Sri Krishna, comparing enlightenment with action?
Yeah, because that was a misconception at that point of time. A lot of people thought that there are certain terminologies like karma sannyasa. There is a terminology that will going to come later. People had a perception at that point of time that if you want to pursue your spiritual path, you have to renounce the work and you can run away from your duties. So that stage, naishkarmya, means it is not stopping all the activities. It is going beyond karma. It is seeing actionlessness in action. We are going to see that in the 4th chapter. So it's a technical term which created a lot of confusion for people like Arjuna. So Krishna, in fact, was clarifying. He said that by not stopping all the actions, you will not become enlightened. That means the stopping all the actions and not undertaking any actions, it is not a checklist for enlightenment. It is a checklist for idleness. So Krishna was correcting that thought process. I think, let me just tell you this, like in the modern world, if somebody tells you that, yeah, I have a good spiritual path for you, but what you have to do is you have to go to Himalaya.
No.
How many percentage of the humanity will be benefited from that teaching?
Not much.
0.0001%.
Yeah.
And even if you look at the people who jumps to Himalaya, that might be sometimes an escapism. Right? So you have to understand, by going to Himalaya or by wearing an orange robe, you do not become more spiritual, and you won't be any less spiritual wearing a jeans and t-shirt and working in Wall Street, as long as you know how to act. This is a revolutionary teaching. Just think about this. 5,000 years back, this teaching is coming.
But Rajaji, there's still a very, and probably there's good reason for that also, that renunciation by going to the Himalayas is probably more conducive towards enlightenment.
But are you ready? Is your mind ready? Because who can take up the job of an engineer? You have to have an engineering mindset.
Yes.
A creative poet, if you put him into an engineering job, utter failure.
Yes.
So there are a small percentage of the people who are not interested in parties, who are not interested in movies, who are not interested in any day-to-day life activities. They are interested in pursuing the study. Sannyasa is for them. Right? Can you take, from the street, the first person, you go to research and development. The second person, you go play American football. The third person, you go and write a poetry. How ridiculous it is.
Absolutely not, yeah.
So a person's mind has to be tuned. Some people are introverts. Some people are not, they are not interested in these worldly activities. For them, this path becomes ideal, the sannyasa path. So, but a lot of people go to sannyasa thinking that, okay, this way my spiritual growth will be there. But they do not recognize they can be successful, whether I'm good for that path. It's like in India, when a kid is born, the parents will decide either you have to go to engineering or doctor, especially at least in our time, right? That was the two chosen profession. So the next thing is, you don't think whether that child is fit for that or not. It doesn't matter. They put some, even if they cannot clear the medical entrance, they put some money and put you into the medical profession. That he will not survive. That is what is Swadharma. We are going to see in this chapter, which direction, what profession you have to select. You will see that later in the 3rd chapter. You see, the thing is that when you engage in that work, you feel joy. You should feel the flow. Remember, the definition of karma yoga is yoga karma sukhaushalam. You feel joyful. The best in you should come out in that profession. And if you don't like that profession, and if you're not engaged in that activity with that spirit, it will not come. So that's why, very important. If you are tuned to sannyasa like a Vivekananda or a Swami Chinmayananda or Swami Dayananda, you will get in there. But don't force yourself into sannyasa. Great. So let's,
Total sense.
any other question? This Karma Yoga is very logical. So we need to be very, so one thing is, this Naishkarmya is not freedom from action. Naishkarmya can be translated as freedom in action. There is a difference between freedom from action and freedom in action. What is that difference? Most of the people think that it is freedom from action. So you stop all activity. Whereas freedom in action means beyond my likes and dislikes. Typically for anybody, his actions are controlled by his likes and dislikes. The moment dharma contradicts with his likes and dislikes. Simple example. Why don't we go? Why should we go for complicated example? Simple example. 30 minutes of yoga every day. 5 minutes of meditation. I know that it is dharma, right? It is needed for your body. It is needed for your mind. But I prefer to sleep 15 minutes more. I prefer to eat unhealthy food. And I prefer to do a sedentary lifestyle. So likes and dislikes contradicting with dharma. So do you have the ability to go what needs to be done versus what you feel to be done? What you need to do versus what you feel to do. Do you have that freedom to choose what needs to be done beyond what you feel to do? That is also known as Naishkarmyam. That is the biggest benefit of Naishkarmyam. You have freedom in action, not freedom from action. So there are 3 lessons again for this verse. The first lesson is renouncing the world and running away. It is not going to make you more spiritual. That is point number 1. Point number 2 is we need to acquire, right? You need to do action, but the goal is to acquire more purity of the mind and control of the mind. That's why I do action. And the actions, when it is done in proper spirit, that becomes a means for my spiritual progress. So these are some of the lessons you need to take. These are all wonderful practical teaching. So with that, let's go to the next verse. Next verse is verse 5. Let me bring up the verse and Anu can chant. Okay. Anu, could you please chant?
Yeah. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krit karyate hyavashah karma sarvah prakriti jair gunaihi.
So Krishna elaborates on that topic. He just said, by stopping, not undertaking any new actions, you becomes not much more spiritual. And by stopping the action, you will not become any more spiritual, because by renouncing the action, you will not reach any spiritual progress. Explanation. Why? The reason is, as long as you're alive, you will have to act. No choice. He said, Nahi kaschit kshanam api jatu tishtati akarma kritaha karyate hi avashaha karmaha sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. This is the explanation. So the word meaning, the literal meaning is, he means indeed. Na kaschit, no one. He just gives a general statement of fact. No one in this world, jatu, ever, tishtati, exist. Nobody in this world can exist. Api chanam, not even for a second. Nobody in this world can exist, not even without a second, akarmakrit, by not performing an action. All the living beings, the sign of life is action. Action is everywhere, right from the microcosm to the macrocosm. The world functions because of the actions. right? You may say that, yeah, I'm not doing anything, but there are hundreds of involuntary actions are happening in your system. Thank God. God made them involuntary. Imagine you yourself have to breathe consciously, or your heart needs to be, you need to control the beating of your heart. Thank God. If it is in our hands, lazy fellows, what is going to happen? Early gati, that is going to happen. So understand that whether you like it or not, you cannot exist in this world, not even for a second, without doing action. Why? Because Krishna explains this. Karyate. Karyate means karyate hi avasha. Sarvaha karyate hi avasha. So because nobody can exist in the world without performing action. The reason is everybody is compelled to act because of the very nature, the way you are created, the way you are designed. You will have to act. No choice. No choice. You will have to act. Is it make sense? Can you keep quiet?
Yeah.
No. See, everybody is compelled to act. Every living being, as long as there is a life in your system, you have to act. So that is what it is, right? Nahi kaschit shanamapi, not even for a second. You say that you sarva karma sannyasa, you renounce all activities, it's just impossible. Sharira yatra pichati na prasiddhita karmanaha. You cannot continue your life without doing action, right? It's impossible. It is impossible for anybody to do any action. So in this verse, Krishna said, indeed, nobody can exist even for a second without performing actions, because everyone is helplessly, means programmed to act. And this is extremely important to continue the life. So how is it possible anybody to renounce the action? So that is very important. So this is very, very much interesting topic. Nobody can remain for a second, even means without acting, and you will be compelled to act. So there are a couple of lessons here. As long as you're alive and conscious, you cannot escape from actions. The thought, the feelings, speech, and physical activities will be there. And that is the nature of our mind, and that is the nature of our body, and that is the nature of the universe. It will be prompted you to act. So it's impossible. And this action, whatever action I do, it is programmed based upon my mind. But it doesn't matter. I have to act. There is a funny story. I don't know how many people you heard. Some people think that just sitting idle is very, very, very inactive. Have you heard of the story of a famous painter? I don't know whether it is Da Vinci or somebody, but one person just observed a gentleman just sitting at the side of a pond every day, not doing anything. He comes to the pond every day morning, and up until evening, he just stay there. And you see that in between he eats something, but most of the time he just look at the pond. And this gentleman thought like, oh, what a lazy fellow he is. You know what he was observing? He was observing the reflection of the sunlight in the pond. And eventually what happened? A masterpiece picture came out of that person. So sometimes you may just look at a person and think that he is idle, but his mind will be working a lot. That is one thing. And there's another story. This is a funny story. This story tells how difficult it is to sit quiet. So in a temple, one sannyasi used to sit there. He don't do anything. He just sit there and meditate. So one day this temple administration changed. So this temple administration changed, and the new administrator saw that, okay, every day the temple is feeding this sannyasi. So he asked, what does this sannyasi do for the temple? He said, no, nothing. The sannyasi is idle sannyasi. Then he said, no, stop the feeding. At that point of time, the sannyasi asked, I used to get a quota of food every day. You stopped it. And he said, the administrator said, you are not doing. It's very easy to sit idle. Then the sannyasi asked, okay, it's not easy to sit idle and meditate. Can you sit and meditate? Means, can you sit and do what I'm doing? He said, that's easy. The next day he came there. First 5 minutes, it was easy. But after that, he felt like talking. The sannyasi said, no, you cannot talk. Then he said, like, he's just started moving. The sannyasi said, no, you cannot move. And immediately, finally, the administrator realized, and the story is that instead of 1 quota, he ordered 2 quota for the sannyasi because he's doing something great. That's a funny story. But what I was trying to say is, you will be prompted to act. You cannot just sit idle. We all complain, right? How busy we are. If we get some time to rest, it will be funny. It will be so good. We all feel that because we are so busy every day. But one day it will be fun. 2 days it will be fun. After some time, what is going to happen? You cannot sit idle. It's impossible. Okay, so recapping, 2 verses Krishna said, you don't think that you will be more spiritual by not doing actions or stopping all the actions you are doing. Reason is, you cannot, but means stay out of the actions while you are alive. This is the 2 verses. So now, any questions? Otherwise, let's go to the next verse. Any questions? Okay, so then we can go to the next verse. This is verse 6. Sorry, please.
कर्मेन्द्रियाणि संयम्य य आस्ते मनसा स्मरन् इन्द्रियार्थान् विमूढात्मा मिथ्याचारः स उच्यते.
It's a very, very, very interesting verse. Krishna calls out who is a hypocrite. He tells, Karmendriyani samyamya yayaste manasa smaran indriyarthan vibhudhatma mithyacharasya uchyate. The one who is forcefully restraining his physical organs. He wanted to see the movies. He wanted to go to the sensual pleasures, but he forcefully controlled them. And physically, he is completely inactive. He is sitting and doing the spiritual practices. But what exactly his mind does? It is reveling in the sense objects. And that fellow, that deluded fellow, is called as a hypocrite. Mithyachara, a person of false conduct. Very strong statement. Considering Krishna's stature, his dignity, this is a very strong word he has used. So a sannyasi who in front of the world, he is a great spiritual seeker. But what happens? What exactly he is doing? He is contemplating upon everything else, and that person is a mithyachari. It is better to be a worldly person struggling for the other thing rather than a forcefully controlled false conduct person. So let's try to understand the details of this verse. So karmendriyani samyamya, karmendriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sa uchyate. So let's try to understand the meaning. Sa here means it's a pronoun, the one, whoever he be. It doesn't matter whether it is Hindu or Indian or a male or a female, it doesn't matter. It's a universal pronoun. So that person who, sa yaham, controlling, samyama, the person who forcefully control karmendriyani, the organs of actions. He's not doing anything. He's sitting in a tree and meditating. That's under a tree. And then aste manasa smaran. He is sitting, but physically he is not doing, but with mind, he is contemplating what? Indriyarthan, vimudhatma. Indriyarthan, that person is contemplating upon all the sense objects in the world. And vimudhatma, mudha means fool. Vimudhatma means the one who has specialized in foolishness. The fellow who has taken PhD in foolishness. Vimudhatma. And that person is known as mithyachara sa uchyate. That person is known as, he is a hypocrite. Look at the practicality of Krishna's teaching. It is unbelievable, right? So he tells, if you just forcefully control your sense organs, if you forcefully leave your world and go to Himalayas and make the world believe that you are a sannyasi and think about the sense objects, what happens? At the best, you can be called as what? A hypocrite. Interesting statement, right? Swami Chinmayananda used to give 2 stories here. So let me tell that stories to you. Swami Chinmayananda is known for his communication skills, and he used to give a lot of stories here. So one story is what? He tells like these, lot of people out of this, their enthusiasm, come to Himalayas. In those days, right now in Rishikesh, there are more activities. I went to Rishikesh couple of years back. I see more activities than you see in the other places. You know, like in Rishikesh, almost all the foreign foods you get, like you get Italian pizza, you get American food, of course the vegetarian, but everything is there. It's like a commercial place right now. But olden days, Rishikesh is the place where people used to go for spiritual activity. So olden days, with these sannyasis, they won't see movies, they don't hear music. So there is nothing, there is no food for any sense organs. There is nothing to see that is sensually interesting. There is nothing to hear that is that can make them enjoyable. The only thing that is available plenty is what? Food. Being sannyasis, everybody will feed them. A lot of people think that, okay, feeding the sannyasi, they will go to heaven. So they lavishly, the foods are available, the sweets are available. So what happens? Swami Chinmayananda used to joke, such people, what happens? Their knowledge and wisdom accumulates in the middle. And I still remember, this was the most funny thing he used to say. He said that these Mahapurushas, their greatness needs to be measured with a tape, not with anything else. Just understand that. There is no other benefit with such people. Second example, he used to say that one person, he had a lot of problem. Let's say that he was from Kerala, southernmost state of India. Some problem he had, he renounced the world, he left his family and went to Himalayas and became a monk. Naturally, the orange robe, people will be respectful to them, they will treat them well. And what happened? He needs some, means in his house, he had only one cloth. He didn't take anything more than that. He had only one pair of clothes. So this sannyasi, he used to live in a small hut, and there was a rat in that hut. So every time this rat comes and used to tear apart his clothes. So he complained that to the other people. So one person brought a cat there. So imagine, right? He renounced the entire world. So he had only a piece of cloth, nothing more. If somebody gives a food, he used to eat. That was his idea. So a cat came in, and then there is a new problem. The cat needs some food. So somebody started bringing milk, and one villager, out of the grace he used to give, donated a cow. Now who has to care the cow? One lady used to come there, and fast forward. After a few years, you see a big bungalow. This person married this maid and living as a good family. This is what happens. Don't take into sannyasa or exclusive spiritual path unless and otherwise you know for sure that this is your call and you need to do that. You have no interest in anything else. Otherwise, it is misconduct, it is mithyachara, it is hypocrisy. You're not supposed to do that. So once again, Krishna calls the person who pretend to be a spiritual seeker, renouncing the worldly activity, but he is thinking about the sense objects all the time. That person is known as a person of false conduct. This is the meaning of this verse. Actually, there are a couple of lessons here. What is that? Means the key lesson here. You don't need to run away from the world for becoming spiritual. And it is a person who is cheating the world, because he's not cheating the world. In fact, he's cheating himself. So now the point is that karmas, you don't have to leave your duty. You might be an engineer in the Wall Street, or you might be a financial analyst, or you might be a householder. You don't need to leave your family. You don't need to leave your job, or you don't need to change your profession. Of course, the profession can be changed for other reasons. You don't have to change your profession for becoming more spiritual. That's why in Upanishad, you see the greatest advice for a sage in one of the Upanishad was given by a butcher. That butcher was more spiritual, apparently, than that sannyasi. So the color of the cloth, what you do, cannot be used as a measure to measure of your, or an indicator of your spiritual maturity. The spiritual maturity is something different. And now Krishna said, it is better for everybody to do what is your duty. You cannot, it is better not to run away from your duty. Okay, if you are a soldier, you engage in the war. If I'm a software professional, or I'm a management professional, go and do that job. Of course, if that is not your swadharma, you happen to be there accident, then you have every right to change that. So, and identify your swadharma and follow your swadharma. And you don't have to run away from your swadharma. If your swadharma is teaching, that is fine. If your swadharma is singing, that is fine. If your swadharma is engaging in a sporting game activity, that is fine. If your swadharma is day trading, that is fine. It doesn't matter. That is not going to make you anything less spiritual. Now the question is, how do I perform my swadharma so that this action can be improve me spiritually? These actions are going to purify my mind. These actions are going to actually stabilize my mind. So that technique is what Krishna is going to come from verse 8 onwards. 7, also one more verse is there. But in the next class, we are going to see how to convert these karmas into karma yoga, because karmas and karma yoga is different. Please understand that the other day I saw like somebody passed away in India. So many people, some people wrote, he was a karma yogi. People always think that a hardworking person is a karma yogi. No, karma yogi means you have to do the action in a certain spirit. So that, what exactly, how can you convert the ordinary karmas into yoga is going to be the theme of the next classes, few classes. So we saw 3 verses today. Let me recap, and then we can give another 5 minutes for Q&A or any topics you want to discuss. So the 3 verses we saw, the first verse, which was verse 4, was means Krishna said, by stopping the activities you are doing, or by not taking any new activities, you are not becoming spiritual, and you are not going to get the highest goals of your life. As I said, like, it is not a checklist for becoming a moksha person, means to attain moksha, but it's at the best, it can be a checklist for the idleness. That is not what we want. And then he tells why. Because you cannot renounce activity. As long as you are alive, you have to act. There is no choice at all. So that part is very clearly explained. Because by your own nature, your body demands actions, your mind will be forced to act, and your word, means speech. You will be forced to speak. Your speech, your thoughts, your emotions, and your body actions, you will have to act as long as you are alive. And then some people, what they do, they try to present a face that, okay, they are renounced from the world, and they just go and try to be exclusive spiritual seekers. But what happens? Their mind will be reveling in all these sense objects. And such person is known as mithyachari, a person of false contact. So that is not advisable. So this is the 3 verses we saw. Any questions?
Rajesh, one comment, just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, please.
The Swadharma, when we talk, it need not be connected with the professions all time, right? Like, for example, I mean, I heard one talk from Sadhvi ji, Jina sent me that link. So there she was mentioning that Swadharma need not pay the bills, basically. We might be doing something absolutely different, which is just for the day-to-day life, we need to do it. But sometimes it so happens that what we do as a Swadharma is the profession, which is like the best way to happen. But yeah, it may not be, right? So just...
no, I think, see, you can choose that profession, right? Because which is closest to your Swadharma. And second thing is that you can, when you can do something, because you are absolutely right. Sometimes I like to be a painter, but painting is my habit. But how many people succeed in painting? So I may have to take some other job to feed the family. So there are 2 possibilities are there. Later point of time, we will see this in Gita. So what happens is sometimes you may have to pick up a profession which is going to make a living for you, but you can pick up that profession which is not completely averse, right? So for example, if a poet, if he go and write as a clerk, it may not be good, but select those profession where you find little bit of joy. That's it. At least you are not completely averse. Otherwise, Monday morning, it will be terrible. That work means, imagine, it's going to be very difficult. Second thing is, you see later in the Gita, you see certain practices, which is going to make you little bit, you start loving what you do. That is another thing. Suppose, for example, means I'm if you think of my profession, I like to be a programmer or a technology professional, but I'm a management professional now. So initially it was difficult for me, but then what I did was, I thought, okay, should I move or should I stay here? Then I saw eventually I started liking what I'm doing. So that is another thing. So we will see these techniques in Gita later point of time. Blessed are those who get a profession which is their Swadharma, completely aligned with their Swadharma. That is a grace.
Thank you.
And we will see, right? So sometimes identification of the Swadharma is also a problem. So how can we identify our Swadharma? So we will see that later in the chapter of Gita. I believe that it is 30th verse or 31st verse. We'll see in this chapter. Some indications and some guidance. So otherwise, you wanted to make a pleasant experience as much as possible. So you can do something.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other comments?
Rajesh, what is the difference between nishkarma and akarma? I mean,
Naishkarmya and akarma. Both are exactly the same.
Oh, both are same. This is interchangeable.
Yeah.
And obviously, nikarma is like, it's a negative side of it, I guess, right?
No, actually, it is not. It is not nishiddha karma. That is nishiddha karma. Nishiddha karma means forbidden action. Naishkarmya means it is actually it is, you are not bound to that action, right? You will be acting, but there is no binding desires. That's it. So the 4th chapter of the Gita is giving that detailed analysis of your questions. So don't think too much about Naishkarmya. Understand that Naishkarmya is knowledge. You know that you are the Atman. That state is known as Naishkarmya. That's why Madhusudana Saraswati call it as, no, Sridhara Swami in his commentary call it as Naishkarmyam is Jnanam. Jnanam about Atma.
Got it. Thank you.
But in that stage, Rajeshji, it's like a yogi stage, right? Like yogi is the one who gets that.
It is the jnani stage. It is the highest stage, a liberated person.
Yeah.
So none of us are in that stage. So that is another reason. You will have to perform action, and you have to perform the action in a karma yoga spirit. At that stage, remember in the second chapter we said, what comes to the jnani automatically has to be emulated and simulated by people like us. Because for a jnani, he automatically will choose what needs to be done over what feels to be done. It is in instant. In other words, for a jnani, what he feels to do will be naturally what needs to be done. That is going to happen. But for us, our ragas and dveshas, our likes and dislikes, sometimes it would be different. So how do I engage myself in such a way that I can do what needs to be done over what feels to be done? I like to eat healthy. I need to eat healthy food, but I want to eat what?
Junk
food.
Rajesh, one question. So in the book flow, right? So it happens to even for the not the jnanis, it may happen for some activity in that akarma state, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because a state of at certain moment, right, when that mind is in that pure stable state, at times that type of actions can happen. Yes, certainly. But how do you extend that 24/7? That is only possible by a jnani.
So Rajeshji, I wanted to ask, if you take the word in a literal sense, actionlessness, that can have a very negative connotation, right?
Actionlessness is a translation, Normabji, right? This is the problem when you translate these. There are certain non-translatables in Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So when you translate Naishkarmyam as actionlessness, it can have a negative meaning.
Yeah.
But Naishkarmyam is a technical term, and that's why we prefer to keep, even in yoga, right? You don't want to translate a very powerful asana to a tree pose, because of course I know that it is convenient. We will do that sometimes just for convenience. Certain words in Sanskrit are non-translatable. For example, karma. Dharma, for example. How do you translate dharma? Impossible. Better call it as dharma.
Yeah.
The other day I was in a discussion with Vivek ji and that Buddhist monk and another person. We are trying, one of the key value everybody has to pursue is dharma. And we were trying to, what is the closest translation we can come up with? Everybody brainstormed. Finally, we kept dharma. No way. So when you translate this into because English, and also we need to understand, right? The other day I said, one of the mistakes people does when they study Gita or Vedanta, you have to use the appropriate metaphysical framework to understand a particular idea. So a lot of people try to put this into a Western Christian metaphysical framework and try to understand this, which will not work. That framework is perfectly good for understanding Bible, but that may not be good to understand this, because the logical system we are used is Indian logical system. And the metaphysical framework would be Sankhya or Vedanta. So that background is also very important. And that's why I'm trying to put that metaphysical, based on that metaphysical system, we are trying to explain it. For example, when you in yoga, if you just translate prana as breath, it is wrong. It means much more than that. You have to understand the metaphysical model. The metaphysical model, there is the Pancha Kosha. In that Pancha Kosha, you have the Pranamaya Kosha. In that Pranamaya Kosha, you have these 5 Pancha Pranas are there. And when you understand that, when you regulate your breathing, what is going to happen? It is touching all that Pancha Pranas. So at that 5 functions, you see benefit. And that is the beauty of the pranayama. So these type of things we need to understand a little bit more. And that is why the complementary study of the Bhagavad Gita, and when you go to Gina's class or Avanit's class, it makes much sense.
Rajaji, just curious, self-realized person, an enlightened person, does he act more or less?
He may act more. Depending upon the situation. Like you look at Krishna, and in the 3rd chapter, Krishna tells, if I stop for a second, the whole world will perish. Yeah, exactly. I'm acting 24/7. That is from a God perspective. But look at a Vivekananda.
Also a whole lot more. Or Chinmayananda.
Yeah, everybody, like there, and there are silent saints also there. You cannot judge. So, for example, Swami Tapovan, he was very quiet. But typically you will see that they will have a lot of love for the humanity. And you can see them working 24/7. Swami Vivekananda passed away at an young age of 39 because of his extra work.
Yeah. Which is why I was a little confused that why is actionlessness being...
Actionlessness is not
the opposite.
That is clarified by Krishna, this verse, yeah. Right? Actionlessness is not stopping all the actions, and that's why I use that word. If you think that stopping all the actionlessness is going to bring you that Naishkarmyam state, it is not a checklist for moksha, it is a checklist for idleness. Excellent. So any other questions? Okay, Anu, could you chant? And what about, means anybody want to learn these first 6 verses? Anu would be able to help you. Otherwise, we can chant these first 3 verses, and we can schedule a separate time for chanting separately. Okay, so I know if you could chant these first 6 verses once again, that would be really great. Thank you.
Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Tritiyodhyayah Karma Yogaha Arjuna Uvacha Jyayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyojayasi Keshava Vyamishreneva Vakyena Buddhim Mohayasiva me Tadekam Vadanishchitya Yena Shreyo Hamapnuyam Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Dvivitha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam Na Karmanam Anarambhat Naishkarmyam Purushoshnute Na cha Sanyasana Deva Siddhim Samadhigacchati Nahi Kaschit Kshanamapi Jatu Tishthatya Karma Krit Karyate Hyavashah Karma Sarvah Prakriti Jair Gunaihi Karmendriyani Samyamya Ya Aste Manasa Smaran Indriyathan Vimuthatma Mithyacharasa Uchyate.
Thank you. So we will see next Sunday. Next Sunday we are getting into the how you can convert your karmas into karma yoga. That's an interesting topic. Tuesday we will continue with chapter 8, and Thursday we will recap all the Atma Bodha verses up to verse 26, and then we will continue from 27. Once we complete Atma Bodha, we will start Isha Upanishad, and Immediately after Shivaratri, we will start Patanjali Yoga Sutra. If Bhagavad Gita is more focused on Karma Yoga, Patanjali Yoga Sutra is focused on Upasana Yoga, which is the stabilization of the mind. So we will see, if somebody wants to understand the meditation in its full potential, right? All the details about of controlling the mind and how the mind works and how the meditation works, we will cover that in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, the Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thanks, Rajesh. Thank you.